and we're recording and we're good.
Good morning. I'd like to open up the Automotive and Flat Glass Board meeting for February 25th, 2021. Can I get a motion to accept the reading of the minutes of the previous meeting dated November 19th, I believe?
I'll make a motion. We accept the minutes.
Okay.
Wait a second.
That. I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So we're going to jump a little bit here. Is Pamela Brown still here?
Well, you have to do comments or concerns of anyone present today. Now you have
Okay.
4 attendees.
Oh, do we? Okay.
One
Hey.
of them is, nice her name is Jessica.
Jessica, yeah.
Sorry, Jessica. So that's one of the attendees. And the other two, did you want me to allow them to talk so that they can, state their name on the record, or?
Yes, that'd be fine.
I mean, I can see it's Anita Shepard. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but let me just, hello, Anita.
Hi, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, Anita was here last month,
Yeah, what was it, last month or was it a couple months ago?
a couple months ago.
I don't
Couple months,
remember.
yeah.
I'm not
Okay.
good at that. Liz Connolly and I are both here from Capital Consulting, so we just want to say hello and thank you and sort of bring you up to speed on some legislative things that we thought should be brought to your attention. I want to start by saying, we represent Safe Flight Auto Group. And I just want to start by saying that we are not introducing any legislation this year. However, there was legislation put into the General Law Committee, one of which was, I think it's a licensing bill put in by the governor's office to streamline licensing in general. And we were asked by legislators to submit similar legislation, submit comments, which we did. We didn't speak at the hearing. And we also told, I want to just be upfront, we told legislators, we told the governor's office, we told DCP, we're not pursuing anything this year. But what is clear, and I think is important for us to all have a conversation about is that the legislature and the governor's office is interested in streamlining licensing, and they're going to pursue this. I think they want to act on recommendations to harmonize licensing requirements across state lines, and that's their kind of bailiwick from the governor's office. But during the public hearing on that very bill, 6445, things came up about why we are the only state in the country that required an auto glass license. We've made it clear that that's not our idea. I want to just emphasize that Safe Flight didn't come up with that idea. That came up with the legislature last year at the public hearing when we were talking about emergency situations. So that's on the table. But what I think you should know is the chairman of the committee during the hearing said, I need to know why we're the only state and why we can't, that has this license, and why we can't put Connecticut in line with the other 49 states in some sort of regulatory scheme. So I told the legislature and the governor's office, I should say we, Safe Flight, Liz, Mike Dugan, Josh Hughes, and I told the folks that we would attend this meeting and tell you that we want to work with you over the summer to try to put something together that's going to satisfy all parties.
And which bill did you say this was?
It's the governor's bill. It's House Bill 6445. And
I don't think, I'm just looking on my tracking, that was stuff that we're following, and I didn't see that one listed. That's why I was just trying to read it quick while you were talking.
Right, it's a governor's bill, and it's the cross state lines one that they're working on.
Okay.
To tell you the truth, it's going to be fraught with issues, but because we were singled out, I mean, Liz can attest to it. We were watching the hearing, and both Senator Witkos and Representative D'Agostino were fairly clear about asking the commissioner of DCP to come back with why we're the only state in the country that requires a specific license for technicians. Again, we're not talking about disrupting, at least from Safeloyd's point of view. And I know John Wisniewski can speak to this as well. We're talking about keeping, safety, anti-fraud, consumer safety, and a scheme in place that will just help us going forward.
And did this also apply in the flat side as well, or were
No,
they just speaking of auto?
They were only speaking of auto because auto is we're the only state in the country that requires an actual license for technicians.
For auto,
For auto only. This has nothing to do with flat.
okay. Do we know, Richard or Jessica, do we know are we the only state that requires a license for technicians for flat? Or are there other states that have it?
There might be other states, but this bill covers any occupational trade.
That's right.
Right, so it
in
would
essence,
include the flat.
Flat glass is in essence, would be exposed to this bill, any type, electrical, plumbing, heating, cooling, elevators, sprinkler fitters,
Electrical, yeah.
Correct.
and so forth. So,
Can I just ask if this is something does DCP support this bill or not?
no, I think we're just providing information to the governor's office. They, like license types and things of this nature. That would be Leslie O'Brien, or legislative liaison would be doing that communication.
I'm here.
Right, well, I'm just
I'm
curious if on the state, from your department's level, if you're on board with this or not on board with this, if it's an infighting thing or if it's a mutual thing.
Leslie O'Brien is here. She's
I'm
trying
here.
to,
Hi, Leslie.
Hi. To answer your question, it's the governor's bill. Our agency has been asked. We are part of the executive branch. We've been asked to provide information as they have written this bill. We've done so. And we were asked the commissioner was asked to testify. She did. We are, I, the commissioner, the deputy commissioner, many of us are appointees of the governor's, and it's his bill. So.
Gotcha, okay.
So you are on
Leslie,
his side,
hi,
and you're not on the
go ahead.
licensing side.
I'm not on anyone's side. I'm just saying
Well, if
the
you're appointed
reality is,
if you're appointed by him, that's what I'm getting at.
again, we've been, Richard, who's on nobody's side, has provided him, as have I, with his office, with the information they've needed to formulate their decisions.
And I believe that the reason why I'm here is not, again, to be for or against that bill. Where I've made it clear to people like the DCP, I think Leslie can attest to that, and the governor's office and the legislature, that we're not pursuing anything this year. But I thought it important when I talked to all these other legislative groups that we say that we would work with you to forge something, because clearly this is an issue that keeps rearing its head. And rather that we have control over it than let somebody else try to do that and work cooperatively with the agency and everybody else. I don't think I'm misstating what we've heard.
So you're saying you've worked closely with the electricians, the plumbers, the heating,
No.
the elevator?
No.
What are you saying?
Our issue has been the issue that we had was working with the legislature on our issue alone. The governor is interested in streamlining all these licenses across state lines, every license that is in front of the DCP. One of them happens to be ours. There would be no reason why we would get involved in somebody else's. I don't know the technical details about electricians or plumbers, but what I think I'm saying, Ed, is that I'm reflecting the fact that I think the legislature is curious about our license and how we can put together a scheme, why we're the only, and in the case of auto glass only, I can't speak to anybody else, that the legislature is curious as to why we're the only state that requires technicians to have a license. That's all I'm here to talk about. And I remember at the last meeting, you had suggested that, you were here to work cooperatively, and so are we. And I think you need to know, And I think Leslie can tell you, we told the DCP we're not pursuing anything. We told the legislature we're not pursuing anything. We told the governor's office we're not pursuing anything. So we are not doing anything this year except coming to you to say, we think when the legislative session is over, we should probably look at ways in which we can put auto glass licensure, make it consistent with a lot of the other states. That's all we're saying.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I know that we have a letter from John that's going to be brought up later in the meeting. But after reading it several times, that because the auto glass has become so technical, I don't see why not. Why they would not want a license for it with the cameras that are installed in it and many other things that are revolving around the glass that's part of the automobile now.
And again, I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is there are ways in which other states make those people responsible for being correctly trained, correctly hold the right certificates, and that there's still accountability without having specifically a license.
Okay, I understand what you're saying now.
I just have a quick question. So on this bill, just for clarification, are they looking to
I'm sorry.
are
Hold
they
on.
looking?
It's my dog. Hold on. Breathing.
That's funny. Go ahead, John.
Are they looking to do away with, technicians that hold licenses, or are they just looking to say, retain the license, but you can, come in, if you're somebody like a large glass company, you can kind of come and go as you want into the state.
Jump in. So the bill right now,
I guess.
the bill right now doesn't say anything specifically about auto glass.
Leslie, we can't hear you.
The bill right now,
Thank
can you
you.
hear me okay now?
Yes.
The current bill as drafted that was on the General Law Committee's public hearing agenda for Tuesday, sorry, today's Thursday. That bill doesn't specify, it doesn't have anything specifically about auto glass. It's a bill that addresses all of the credentials that we issue to individuals as an agency. And it says that if you have a credential in another state and you move to Connecticut, that if you have a year's worth of experience with the credential in the other state, that the department can determine what kind of test you need to take, and then you can be licensed or credentialed, depending on what it is that you hold for a credential. So that's what the bill says. They have a similar bill in the Public Health Committee that requires similar review and credential issuing for the Department of Public Health with the credentials they issue. So they're doing, it's not specific to the occupational trades. It's everything across the board. And that's what the bill currently says. At the hearing, as Anita was talking about, Senator Witkos, and I can't remember, but somebody else, I can't remember, there was another legislator that asked, Representative D'Agostino, thank you, who asked specifically about the auto glass licensing requirement. And so when Anita's just mentioning to you that was something that was asked about at the hearing, because they are aware that we are the only state in the country that requires such a license, and they wanted to know more about it. So that was asked at the hearing, and that's all. That's the situation. The bill is subject, as I told the board chairs, because we had a meeting with all of the occupational trade board chairs earlier this week. I can't remember, it's all a blur now. I guess it was Monday. Anyway, and as we said, so Ed, you weren't there, but as we said, the governor's office is, I think, looking to negotiate with people about where this ends up, both the bill that's in general law that deals with DCP credentials and the bill that's in the Public Health Committee that deals with public health credentials. So that's a situation, it's very broad, it's not specific to any one credential.
Well, it looks like from the testimony, most of the unions are against it.
Yes, I would say that's an accurate assessment.
I would say
I'm
that's
just
right.
reading through all the testimonies now and they're
Right,
not
so
too
I have
many
to
up for it.
apologize because there is another general law public hearing at 9:30 where and the two DCP bills that don't have anything to do with licensing are on the agenda and the commissioner is testifying. So I have to get off the call in a couple of minutes. Or the meeting, I should say, sorry. So if you have any other questions for me.
I just was, so I guess, I don't know if I got my answer.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think, so are we we're looking to retain a license for a technician, but everybody else will have to go through one procedure, auto glass technicians go through another? And
Okay, so just to be clear.
or it's
you-
just forget about licensing for technicians altogether?
Again, you mentioned the bill and what the bill did. I just explained what the bill did. What I explained was that at the hearing, there were questions about why our state is the only state in the country that requires licensing for auto glass installation. So that was asked. No one really answered the question or had an answer. And to Anita's point, they're asking about this. So she was just trying to raise that with you, that there'll be probably more questions in the future, both as this bill goes through this legislative process and beyond. That's the point. There is no bill right now that does anything
Right,
specific to auto glass at all.
right.
But
And
there
I
are-
think.
Well,
I think-
excuse me, Leslie, I want to thank you for your input, first of all, but not one person, I believe, myself included, was asked to show up at one of these legislative meetings to explain why we have a licensing bill for auto glass.
Okay, Ed, with all due respect,
There's no.
I could not predict that those questions would be asked at this hearing, first of
That's
all.
right.
Okay,
So we're reporting back to you that that's what happened at the hearing. We didn't know that those questions were going to be asked.
Right, and Ed,
Okay.
I told Safelight, we were asked to submit testimony to submit, we didn't say a word. Again, I'm gonna tell you, we made it clear to the DCP, to the governor's office, and to the legislature that we were not pursuing anything this year. Leslie can verify that, at least from the DCP side,
Yep.
and the governor's office that we would sit down to talk to you about this.
Mhm.
I'm not saying to John, I think John is asking a very important question. None of us want to compromise safety, quality, fraud, any of that. And I'm here to tell you, as you said a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago at the last meeting, let's work together to try to put something together that keeps a system in place that's consistent with other states and maintains quality, safety, and all those things. Maybe it doesn't have to be a license. Maybe it's at some other form. In other states, it's a certificate or a registration. And that's all that we need to do. I don't know, but it begs the question that it's going to come back in next year in 2022. And I would rather us all be speaking with one voice because this is not the first year this has come up. It's year number 3 now.
Now, I vaguely remember when we were trying to get the bill passed originally for auto and flat, that there was conversation about the auto glass, not because it was only a 1-year program, that there was talk at one point, and I think Richard maybe would remember about it, the auto glass going under the DMV regulations.
It could be. I don't remember.
Because as if you were an auto repair doing tires, etc.
I mean,
Everybody.
we have no objection to keeping this board in place and for complaints to continue to go before this board. That is not anybody's intent. And I can't speak to the DMV or anything like that. Wasn't a part of that. But I will say that, this. I think that the legislature is the real issue is why do we need a license? Can we call it something else and have a frame in place that matches the other 49 states pretty well and still and who is the Italy book? I love that. I think that that's all we're looking to do. And I spoke to Safe Light. They are committed to working with everybody. I think they think it's a good idea. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's not their idea to get rid of the license. Let's start with that. I said that 3 times. It's the legislatures and the government's idea. They brought this forth last year. I think I told you that. So now we're squarely facing it. And I think better that we do it together. We put something together that you all can live with and we all can live with, rather than have them dictate what's done, because something's going to get done. I can guarantee you.
Well, thank you for that.
Well, yeah, I mean,
It's up.
thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead,
Thank
John.
Anita, and we would love to work with you. It's kind of funny. I hear Jen, I hear you kind of pushing us towards DMV, but it always seems like the auto glass is the one that has a lot of action going on in this meeting, which signals to me that, it's a fast changing industry. And
I agree.
like the chairman said, now we have this whole safety, cars are getting more and more computers. So
Right, well, and that's my,
we'd love
that's
to
why
work with you,
I'm,
and don't throw us off the boat yet, Jen.
no,
Oh, she's not
I'm
throwing you, John.
saying, no, not
She's
at
sticking
all.
up for you.
No, I mean, what I'm saying is that if the whole point of our board is consumer protection, right? So if we're not, our laws and our rules need to be equivalent to doing just that. And as I brought up concerns prior about the auto glass, is when you have a training program where it's 1 year, I think I've brought this up numerous times. If somebody works for my shop, say where I do, I don't know, 10 windshields a month, because it's not a lot of what we do, my apprentice is not going to have the same experience after 1 year as one that works for SafeLight or Payless or some of these other companies that do that amount per man in a day. So the qualifications at the end of the 1 year are not the same. Therefore, I personally would think the liability should be on the shop owner, the shop manager, to make sure that he's training his employees and putting in the right stuff, since this is in a vehicle that ultimately, if somebody, that's why myself personally, we get a car that has a camera, I send them to other glass shops because we don't do it. I don't want to get involved and I don't want the liability for it. So when the onus is on the owner to make sure, listen, you don't do the right thing, there's major motor vehicle fines, etc., there may be more teeth to help the consumer in a DMV law than in the law that we have now. And I don't know that. I'm just saying that there was talk originally about putting the auto into the DMV regulations where I think they have more teeth, but I could be wrong.
So, I mean, if there's glass, I think that one needs to be, well, first of all, if somebody's doing only like, a handful of windows a week, now we're going to ask them to totally give it up. And I don't think that's fair, because now we're saying,
No, I was just thinking in the apprenticeship training, instead of a certain amount of hours, it should have been a certain amount of pieces of glass. So you have to do 100 windshields or 25 door glass or whatever that number is, versus just a set amount of hours.
And I think to Jennifer's point with ADAS and everything else, not to DMV, again, we're talking, as far as I'm concerned, we're talking about one issue. I agree with John with complications with auto glass replacement with all the ADAS systems, John, as you speak to. We're here because we felt an obligation to let you know that this was going on and that nothing was going to happen this year. But again, that we felt like as a group that we might want to be the ones helping forge how to do this, rather than leaving it up to the legislature to decide by themselves.
Well, I think you're right on that point, and I think we should sit down or get together some way through either Zoom or whatever we can do to start discussing the outcome that we want rather than the
Exactly.
outcome that they're going to put on us.
Exactly, which
I
is
agree
why,
too.
that's why we said, we don't want anything. After they said, put in your testimony, we said, we don't want anything this year. It was not our idea. So I think that that's really important, Ed, and I'd like to do that. You know, when the session's over, start in the summer, give them something in the fall that says, this is what we want, make sure DCP is okay, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it can be done. I don't think it's that hard.
So, and I appreciate that too, and we want to work with everybody. I'd like to finish my thought, though. I think that pushing us through to the DNV
Right.
would really might upset a lot of other glass companies that only do maybe not as much, maybe their percentage is not as high, because now we're just going to rip them out and say, oh, if you want to do a handful of windows a week, you got to go and get two licenses, one through DCP and another through DMV.
I agree, John.
I think that I want to say for the record, that is a horrible idea.
I wouldn't say that. I wasn't implying to have both. I was implying if they got rid of our license on auto to have regulations through DMV. That I wasn't saying to do both.
Well, the Connecticut, just to give you a little history, the Connecticut glass dealers I believe were the ones that lobbied for this law back in 2000. And I don't know how many auto glass people were on it at that time. That's where
I think a lot more. That's where the transition is.
There
We
was
don't have a lot of
more than
competition.
50% of the board were auto glass people at that time.
Well, that's
Yeah.
where I met. That's where I met Richard, and then we ended up, and when he spoke in Palm Springs, and I ended up on the board.
That's when your father hollered at me.
You're right. I thought it was
He
crazy.
gave me holy hell in Palm Springs, boy, I tell you.
It's always the
What are
father.
you doing? I don't want regulations.
It's funny because I tell that story all the time. And, I think also that we are looking at the AGRIS standards and the Connecticut Glass Dealers Association. Maybe Jessica, if she's here, can speak on how that's going with talking with AGRIS. So I think there's, again, I think that we don't want to make this hard for anybody.
Right.
But we've been in this thing for 20 years, and just to be like, okay, get rid of the auto glass guys. Too much talk is unfair.
That's
And
not
we
our
would love-
intention.
And we'd love to work with you.
Yeah, thank you.
I have Andre texting me that he'd like to chime in if the moderator would. That's okay.
Perfect timing, but we don't know how.
He should be able to. Can you hear us, Andre?
Yeah, I could. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to chime in on.
Excuse me, Andre, could you state your name and,
First name is Andre, last name is Santa Maria, owner of A&A Windshields LLC. I have a proposed bill, House Bill 6220, which is to dealing with brick and mortar for AG1 license holders. For when an AG1 is either to be renewed, we have to verify brick and mortar. And the reason for that is because the industry is evolving. It evolved years ago. When I first started, we used to use butyl tape and silicone. The old timers didn't like urethane. Then you get 2020 does an episode where more than half the windshields installed in the country are done wrong. The industry evolves to urethane. It also evolved with the passenger side airbag. Urethane went from 24-hour cure to half-hour, 1 hour safe driveway time. We evolved with wearing gloves and doing safety. Now it's taking it another huge step forward with all the safety driving that they have with the ADAS, the driving assist. This technology is great. It exists, and it should really be done correctly. So what is ADAS? There's a few different things. And one, it does the pre-collision. If you get too close to a car automatically brakes. Lane keep. If you're driving down the highway, your vehicle swerves, it recenters your car. It applies the rear brake. Say if you swerve to the left, It'll apply the rear brake to the right wheel, rear right wheel, so the car recenters itself. So when you do a windshield that has that system, which is standard equipment on most 2020 cars and 2021 cars, also 2019 cars. So when you do it, it's recommended to have the vehicle system recalibrated immediately after. Solutions, links, services, they give you a speech from the insurance company that's written that you shouldn't rely on these systems until you get it recalibrated once having a windshield replaced. That's just enough for the insurance company to cover themselves. I mean, it'd be horrible. Somebody's walking off of a sidewalk, which we see all the time in Connecticut. Windshield was replaced, wasn't recalibrated immediately after. Somebody steps off the sidewalk and gets killed. That car's technology today would prevent that. So once a windshield is installed, it is necessary to immediately after recalibrate the windshield. Now, recalibrating domestic cars usually involves a 20-minute test drive. You plug in the tablet, you take the car out, you put the camera in a learn mode, and you're driving on a 2-lane highway, and it picks up signs, it picks up the street highway signs and signs ahead. It also read signs, pedestrians crossing and stuff like that. That's usually on a domestic. On a foreign, most foreign, except for like Honda and Acura, they're dual static and driven, you have to have a controlled environment. And a controlled environment means no natural light, can't be outside, and you got to set up targets. And that should be done immediately after. I know the insurance companies like to say, well, you can't rely on it, but so much on your car relies on that camera that it should really be done right after. And you need a building to do this industry today. We're not looking to put anybody out of business. We're just looking to protect the consumer. Because, if you tell a consumer, well, you really need to be checked by your local dealer or whatever after Joe at the corner come to your house and do the windshield outside, he doesn't have the technology to calibrate it. Well, what happens if you're involved in an accident? Cruise control works off ADAS. So today's cars, when you hit your cruise control button, you also have a setting, how far away, the distance you want it to keep from the car in front of you. A lot of that's not explained to the customer. So, you think, oh, well, I can't use my lane keep, but I could use my cruise control. So I hit the cruise control, take my eye off the road for a second. I run right into the car in front of me because the distance is off. The manufacturer of the camera that makes the camera, and also GM, Acura, Honda, their policy is that whether or not you replace the windshield, if you remove the camera from the bracket to fix a rearview mirror, to clean the camera, that camera has to be recalibrated. Because calibration does to make sure that the camera is mounted on the bracket correctly, and also to make sure that the camera is seeing through the glass correctly, whether the glass is distorted, whether the tinting on the glass is too pronounced, or it's not pronounced enough. So that's the guidelines from the manufacturer to the factory and for the camera. So that's why I think brick and mortar is really important today. So everybody might ask, well, what happens if I don't have the money to get into calibration? Well, there's a lot of companies out there now that you lease the equipment, right? So say, for example, the insurance company gives you an extra $150, $250 or $300 to calibrate the windshield after you do it, the camera. But we spent $15,000 on the equipment. So that's a big chunk that my company spent to do the job correctly, right? Just for one location. So if you have multiple locations, it gets expensive. But there's also companies out there that give you the equipment and say, okay, we'll log, when you log in, you want to calibrate it, we'll walk you through it. We'll give you all the reports, recalibrate the camera. We keep half the money. You take half the money. That's the payment of the lease. So you could get into doing the job right with no cost. It's just choosing to doing the job right. Does that make sense to anybody?
Yes, it does, Andre, and thank you for that dissertation on everything, because you've probably opened at least my eyes on, excuse me, after reading John's letter, the status of the windshield to the camera and to how it's correlates that, you got to get these all in the same motion because it's not going to work totally.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And you'll probably be part of our conversation in the near future also.
Okay.
Any comments?
Well, I would just agree with what Andre said. I think these are all issues that we have to look at. There are several issues that we need to look at. And I think, again, we can address the tiny issue of the licensure or put together something comprehensive that we could all agree to.
And I'd like to agree with Andre and Anita, and we'd like to work with you.
Is Jessica still here?
Hello, I am. How are you?
Hi, Jessica.
Yeah, I agree. We need to work together again. I just feel like we're getting invited to the party late. So any help or assistance that you need, or you want to sit down and start discussing these. I looked at the bill from the governor that Leslie talked about. For some reason, it wasn't on our bill tracking, which is odd. So I'd like to see that when it comes to have a little more language on some more meat to the bones, if you will.
Yeah, I think that bill, I agree with you. I think that bill's got a whole host of issues.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And we could, part of me thinks it's going to run into some trouble. We should all keep our eyes open for that, because I think, if we're going to work together to craft something all together for next year, we gotta watch that bill as well, just to see how it's going along through the process.
I agree with you. I
Absolutely.
think that, excuse me. Yes, go ahead.
No, and again, we are the flat and auto glass exam board. We are the experts. So why, again, we weren't, consulted as, Ed said about, having these questions answered or, brought to our attention is a little concerning again, but, we'll push forward and do what we can. And then as John spoke to the auto glass program, we have partnered with AGRES and have a program up and running with them. So our members are, able to access that program. And yeah, happy to help in any way. And you have my contact information. And Anita, I know you know John Bailey very well. So,
Yep.
Please reach out and we'll loop him in.
Yeah, I think, maybe, Jessica, a good way to start is with you and us talking to you and sort of putting out together an outline, and then maybe at the next meeting of this board, sort of put together an outline of what we see needs to sort of be accomplished, including Andre's issue of bricks and mortar kind of things. So maybe we could put together sort of an outline, and that would be a starting point. Do we want to put this in? Do we not, where are we going to go? And at least that's at the beginning. And then we could keep working over the summer. I mean, I think the key is not to let the legislature do anything. I don't mean to be fresh. I don't mean to be, I'm Italian. I can't help it. It's like, I don't want to be fresh, but I don't want them doing anything right now.
Well,
and
I
we
think
had,
you're both on the right track. I think we should get something together so that we have an alternative to what they're asking.
Right.
I'm sorry, Jess, I cut you off.
No, I was just going to say we had a glass dealers board meeting the other night, and we will be surveying our members to, see how they feel about it as well.
Terrific. We'll be in touch.
Thanks.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you.
Yep.
Anita, thank you. Jessica.
Thank you for giving us so much time. I feel like I'm like the pin hitting the balloon.
Well, matter of fact, I spoke to my wife this morning as she was leaving. I was asking her for the egg timer, the 5-minute egg timer, but she said she couldn't find it. And I said, well, thank you, because that just made my meeting a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So,
But
Thanks,
thank
Ed.
you so much for listening to us. I think this is a much better way to sort of comprehensively approach stuff.
there's no thank you necessary. This is what we're here for, but other people don't realize that. Because
Yeah,
if they came to us and talked to us about it, a lot of this stuff that we are getting hit with could have been cured in the
earlier,
past.
exactly.
Because like
Thanks so
Jessica said,
much.
you're welcome. There's experts are on the board here. Thank you. Moving on. Any more comments or concerns of any person present today? Richard? No?
Joe Pizzino is in as an attendee. Did you want to have him speak at this time, or?
Or you can bring him in, yep.
You bring him in.
Can you hear us, Joe?
He's on mute. Good morning, Joe.
It's on his end though.
There he is.
All right, let me try this one more.
How about now? Can you
Oh.
hear me? Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Joe.
Sorry I'm late to this. I didn't know. I didn't get an email. Jen just forwarded it over to me. So I missed your meeting and I don't know how much
Oh,
went on.
yeah, you only missed about auto, but we were talking about House Bill 6445, which perhaps I see that your organization has submitted some testimony on.
Yeah,
I don't know if you had anything to add to it, because we heard from the auto.
I actually do with the auto. First of all, John, just so you know that the co-chair of the law committee, Mr. Mike D'Agostino, in the middle of talking about that bill, she was just talking about streamlining occupational licensing, got on his soapbox the other day and came out in front of everybody and said that in his mind, he can't see any reason why there's an auto glass license or a glazer license at all in this state. And he went back in the records and said he talked to people that were involved in this originally, and nobody could remember why this bill or this law ever came into play. So they're actively trying to eliminate our licenses. So just so you know that. Past that, go ahead, Eddie. I see you ready to talk.
No, I'm listening, Joe. I'm listening.
And did you want me to speak more on the bill as far as the glazer or?
Yeah, I would love to hear it. Yep.
Yeah, so as far as the building trades go, we don't have any issue with them trying to expand opportunities for people coming into the state and getting licenses. With the building trades, for the most part, and not every single one of them, but most of the licensed trades are saying that they just want to make sure that the boards are still in place to at least give their expert input on all these new applicants coming in before they just allow them to sit for a test, or in some cases, they can just hand over the license. They don't even have to have them test. And that's
this
our
applies,
position.
Joe, does this apply for plumbers, electricians, et cetera, or
Yes.
just, okay, all right.
Yes, for all licenses, they want a reciprocal agreement with other states around the country to be able to just come here. If you hold a plumbing license in Florida, you should be able to come here and just sit for the test. And of course, there's different codes there. There's no frost lines. It's a whole different reasons for them.
Right.
For us, there's no license anywhere else. So our position was, look, we don't have a problem with somebody coming in from another state. We just want you to put them in front of the board, make sure they have the on-the-job training required, the schooling if necessary required, and let the board ask a few questions and then give a recommendation before DCP just allows them to sit.
This is the same one from your side.
Because it's an open book test. Anybody can pass that test. You get a couple minutes to study. We all went to college. You can cram a whole semester's worth of work in an hour and pass that test. Whether that puts you a journeyman glazer or not, I don't think so. So that's where we were, and I just want to make sure everybody heard that.
Yeah, and this is the first our board's hearing of it, so our board didn't submit any testimony or anything.
Yeah,
on this, so.
I think the administration is pushing this. This is a governor's bill, and he's hardlining this through. They won't even let us talk to the people from the governor's office to put our input in. We've been blocked everywhere. So this is tough what's going on. And again, they're trying to eliminate our licenses completely, just so everybody knows. They don't see a reason for it. And you know.
Obviously, someone that hasn't looked at the money.
You know, and somebody really hasn't listened to the testimony that happened back in 98 and 99 and whenever all this went down and why this was put into place in the first place. They're saying they can't find anybody that can remember why this was ever put in as a license. That's what Mike D'Agostino said. And you guys all know him, or I know Jen, you do. He's pretty much against us anyway. He's got the carpenter in his back pocket and can't understand why anybody needs a license to do what we do. But you know, we're in a tough spot right now, and along with the other trades, are being told that you know, the governor wants it easier for out-of-state companies to come in here, bring their people, get licenses, and do the work. When there's enough work here for our guys that are already licensed to do. So it's you know, most other trades are 30% unemployment right now. I know the glazer is a little better off, but there's a lot of licensed tradespeople out here in this state already. So we don't see the need. But
Well, if memory serves me correct, Carl, I'm gonna need your help on this one. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but the auto glass was the catalyst of this because of safety risks that I believe a mother was driving, had just had her windshield replaced. Her daughter didn't have her seatbelt on. She hit the brake. The daughter went through the windshield, and I believe it was on ABC News at the time. My memory doesn't serve me. It's 20 years ago, but the young man that started this came to us and said, we're going to, you know, put a board together, and they'd asked me to be on it, obviously. And he's disappeared. Well, he's going to do something else, I'm assuming. But that's how it started 20 years ago, by a mother complaining that she had a windshield put in, and evidently the guy put it in with bathroom caulk, and her daughter went through it.
I think that's right, Ed. I just want to I know we've exhausted sort of discussion on the governor's bill. I just want to make sure that, you know, I listened to that whole painful hearing, sadly. And I think that Mike D'Agostino was really targeting the fact that unlike flat glass that have several states that have licenses, that auto glass was the only state that required a license and 49 did not, and whether or not there could be a regulatory scheme, again, that ensured safety and consumer and quality and consumer safety other than a license. So I agree with what, I can't speak to what Joe is saying. I think a lot of people, to Joe's point, don't like the governor's bill, but I'm here just to talk about, again, that one piece. And I think, again, if we I'll plan to work with Jessica and you and put something together on the auto side to as we move forward, if that's okay with you.
That's fine.
Great.
Thank you, Anita.
Well, you know, the governor and the office there are so into, you know, promoting the trades and having people work in the trades. Having a license is beneficial in that area because it gives people an opportunity for education and to get involved in the trade. So
I've just seen many articles where the headlines were college is not for everyone. And here's, you know, people working in the trades, learning a trade, and we are licensed trades, and we help the consumer get the work done for the right price, and not have people coming back continuously to keep on doing it.
It helps everyone.
Wrong the first time.
It helps everyone.
I think Rhode Island, by the way, I don't know if it ever went through, was activated, but pretty sure Rhode Island does have in their bill law that the techs are to be licensed.
I think that it's through the facility and it's a registration kind of thing, but you're right, John. We should look at that as a possibility.
Well, the Massachusetts is definitely just the facility, which leads into what, you know, the last gentleman was just talking about, brick and mortar. But I know Rhode Island is brick and mortar as well. They're both brick and mortar, and I know they're both the shop owner. But I'm pretty sure, I don't know if they've actually rolled it out, but I'm pretty sure that they the auto glass technician needs to hold a license as well.
Yeah, I thought it was a registration, but here's again where you could call it X or Z, right? You can arose by any other name. But I think that's the point of us all getting together and talk. Let's put together something that would work, would work. But you're right, John.
You know anything about what's Maryland? Are they just doing the shop or are they asking for both?
Okay, so that's way above my pay grade.
Okay.
But I could find out from, I could talk to Safelight. They would know. I don't know. I have a hard enough time, John, with Connecticut. You want me to be?
And that's a conversation for another meeting. Thank you.
All righty.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Joe, anything else?
No, that's it from me. I'm sorry I missed the beginning of this meeting. I'm not sure why I didn't get the email, or maybe it went to a junk file, but you guys know when your next meeting will be? So I
May
can get it?
20th.
May 20th?
20th. Yep.
Okay, I just want to put it in.
So we have a target on our back, and Mr. D'Agostino's got the arrows.
He absolutely does. And he's firing. He
Okay.
has no problem with it. So
And he's a state rep from Hamden?
from Hamden, yep. And he's the co-chair along with, I believe it's Maroney from, I forget, Avon area.
Milford. He's from
Milford.
Milford.
Yeah, Milford. And he's, Mr. Maroney, you could talk to him. But D'Agostino, he's tough.
Is this the law committee?
Yep,
General Law Committee.
General Law Committee. And we ran into him last year when our bill came up that lost because of the COVID thing. But he took a stance against our license in the middle of, I did a deposition, and he took a stance against our license then too. So he's pretty much hard-nosed on how he thinks this license is for the glass. And he's in a
Okay.
big position. Yep,
Thank you, Joe.
you're welcome. I apologize.
D'Agostino.
I've got another meeting at 10 o'clock that I got to run to.
Well, take your car. It's be easier to get there, I'm sure.
Well, actually, it's another Zoom, so I got to jump from this one to another one. So thanks a lot, you guys. And if
All right,
there's
take
anything
care,
I can
Joe.
help, let me know.
Yep.
Thanks.
Moving on, DCP Investigation Division. Janita, thank you for waiting for so long. Are you still there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am. Interesting conversation, I shall say.
Just
And
a
yes, I'm still here. Unfortunately, Pamela had to jump to another meeting at 9:30. And I'm glad your discussion ended because I was going to have to tell you at 10:30 I had to leave myself. So I did send it to Karen Ann for the 2 months that the report targets. November 1st of 2020 to December 31st of 2020. Investigations Division did not receive any glacier reports, and investigations did not close any of the existing files that we have.
Okay, and how many files do you have, if I might ask?
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I would have to get on the old reports and go back and look, because when the way the report format is set up by our IT people, it's that it just looks at that 2-month time frame. It doesn't look back in time, and it doesn't carry over, which is something not only you and your board have asked, other boards have asked. We have mentioned it to the IT people, that is there some way that they could amend the report so that we would be able to keep a running tab for you. I could look that up and write myself a note, or Karen could remind me. And for your next meeting in May, I could give you a running tally of what is existing.
Thank you, Janita.
You're quite welcome, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Janita? I think she answered all of them. If we can get something, at least how many open cases or pending or whatever for the next meeting, be helpful for us.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'll write myself a note. if there are no other questions or concerns from you, Mr. Chairman, or your board members, may I be excused?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everybody stay safe. Have a good one. And I will see you in May.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Moving on. Okay, so we're on to the old business, which is discussion regarding regulations pertaining to the definition of licensable glazer work.
I think we
this
beat that dead horse for a while,
Yeah, I
don't you?
think so too. What's the other one?
At this
Um,
point, at this point, it may not even matter, so.
What do you mean?
They don't want us to be licensed. They don't need a definition, do they?
No. But we're gonna fight like hell to be licensed. And I'm sure that the other guys aren't walking away.
No, I
Elec-
know, but I'm just
electrical,
saying,
plumbing,
maybe we
heating.
need to focus our energy on consumer safety and why it's important.
Exactly.
Start looking for articles and data for that.
But also bring up that, we never heard anything else about that kid, that case, the glass that fell on that guy in Old Saybrook or wherever it was.
Not Old Saybrook.
Where
No,
was
it was in, that was at the school. Where was it now?
Joe would know because he was there, I think.
Yeah, I forgot. I know the guy got hurt really
Yeah.
bad, but I didn't.
Well, that's
I think
no
it was.
training.
I think it became an OSHA issue.
Right. All right, so we beat the new business number 3, which is legislation to address auto glass replacement. And the other thing was John's letter. John's letter submitted Thursday, February 4th.
Right, which we already talked about.
Right. Okay. Wow, moving right along.
The working group, we didn't have any
Right.
people
Nothing.
to approve, so that meeting was non-existent. That was number 1 under new business.
Is Karen still here?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Karen.
Yep. Hi.
I don't know, but during COVID, I don't know if I ever received my renewal for last year. And I mean, I'm looked at through my checkbook and I couldn't see that
Okay.
Did you see if one was sent out to me?
Yeah, I will. I'll look after the meeting and I'll email you about that.
Appreciate it. Because I'm just looking at the update on the licensing and stuff like that.
And there is an application for March 5th.
I'm sorry?
There is an application for the March 5th review.
Oh, okay. Okay.
March
Um,
5th?
Ed, you think you can renew online? I didn't get anything in the mail from DCP. I did mine online. I got an email and did it online.
Okay.
Yeah, they send the emails initially and then license services, I believe, will send it, regular mail if it's not renewed after a certain amount of time. But I'll check into it after the meeting. I'll let you know.
All right. So if they do, would you email it to me so I can do
Sure.
whatever I have to do?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I want to keep the state going with my $130-$40.
It's a lot of, it's much easier to renew with the PIN number that they give you.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so that any kind of correspondence should have a PIN number on it.
Okay.
And don't make a mistake, because if you use the PIN number once, it won't let you in again, which is how I know. You have to either get a new PIN number or you have to look it up, and then, I don't know, there's a whole bunch of stuff you have to do.
Well, John's, the correspondence was John's letter, and we've already gone through that, so. Is there a motion for adjournment? Because that's what it looks like we got next.
I will. Motion to adjourn.
And our next meeting is May 20th. Everyone, put that in your little notepads.
Sticky note.
Sticky note, yes.
Ed, were we supposed to talk about, there was
Oh.
one other thing on here about some renewal statement from the commissioner, number 2.
Right.
There was some other attachment here. New business number 2. Occupational Licensing Board Renewal Form Statement Suggestion.
Oh, okay, I didn't see that.
I
I'm
don't,
sorry.
I don't know if that's just for an FYI or,
I don't know if Richard wants to speak on that. Richard, are you there?
Is that for us to send a letter in?
Well, every year we send out renewal forms to all types of licensees. And there's always a space on the initial renewal notice that is sent, whether it's sent by email or sent by paper through the US Postal Service. But there's always space there for something to be written. So I thought that maybe for this year's renewal, for the license types that have apprenticeship programs, we should be sending out this generic statement. And it goes to journey persons and contractor license holders, but it might be, maybe it's a little bit of a reminder, It's better than leaving the space blank on the renewal form.
I think it's a good idea. Like I just asked, I don't know if I had gotten one or if it was because of COVID mail or what.
Right. The ones for last year, I believe it said something about the journeyman can't perform the function of a contractor. And I think it says apprentices have to be supervised. So for this year, I thought it would make it very clear that all persons should be either licensed or registered as an apprentice and what the penalties could be.
oh, I agree.
So do I.
I mean, I don't want the renewal forms to go out blanket. We have space there to send out some type form of notice. So that's all about.
No, I agree too. And I think everyone on the board will agree. Also, the
Unless we
class
come up
leaders.
with something else, but I think at the very least, we should plug in something. And I thought, well,
Yeah, I mean, they might they should know what, a lot of, some people feel like, why should I renew? Well, it's a nice little reminder that this is why.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that document. I don't have it in what's the title? New business number 2? No?
Yeah, you had it
Yeah.
as new business number 2.
All right, hang on.
Licensing board's renewal for form statement suggesting to Commissioner of Consumer Protection.
Right. Yeah, I got it. So it starts off, the wording on the renewal form would be any person who willfully engages in, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's a good, and it talks about the Class B misdemeanor and everything else. Of course, there's another section that pertains to the board doing the fines. But this is letting people know that if you're totally unlicensed, unregistered, you could be arrested and it would be a Class B misdemeanor.
And I
Yeah.
just had that, and I agree with you 100% because I read it. It's part of, where is it? It's gonna be the last page, obviously. Yeah, it's part of the new business page. All renewal forms of 2021. Section 20-341.
Yep.
Right, Richard?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I definitely believe that should be put in there.
Okay.
I agree.
And of course, the last line is the penalty provided in this subsection should be in addition to any other penalties and remedies available under this chapter or chapter 416. So they should be aware that they can get fined a couple of times for not having the license or the apprenticeship card saying that they're a registered apprentice.
Yep. So I'm having the other boys take a look at it as well. So I'm sure everybody wants something to be on the renewal form rather than leave the space blank. That's all.
Well, you can count the glass board being on board with that.
Okay.
Anybody, any other comments? Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion, but I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Again, a very enlightening meeting. I appreciate the fact that we got some things done today.
Stay safe.
Aye, everyone.
You too, John. Take care, Frank.
Take care, guys.
Yeah.